Now you may remember a few months ago I did a video on the Australian high school experience, and you guys seemed to enjoy it. But there was one major aspect that I didn't include in that video, simply because it deserves its own video, and that of course is school camp. You see, every year level from about year 3 through to year 12 goes away on a school camp. Now most teachers try and disguise these school camps as some sort of educational experience, but that of course couldn't be further from the truth, because school camp is nothing but an annual introduction to the lads holiday that you don't have to pay for. Anyway, now that you sort of get the gist of it, it's time for me to stop the waffle and get into it. But before we get into that, make sure to press that subscribe button. Don't forget to click the link in the description and make an investment into your future by copying some epic t-shirts. There's only a few left, so get in quick. Anyway, now obviously the first thing that you do when you're going on a school camp is pack your suitcase. Now obviously you have to add all the boring stuff like clothes, a toothbrush, etc. But the most important part of packing a suitcase for school camp has to be the contraband. Now obviously depending on the year level that you're currently in, the contraband can vary widely. The younger kids will pack in things like lollies, chocolate and other things along those lines. Then as they get a little bit older, they'll start smuggling in phones, which for some reason the teachers usually don't allow. And then as you get into the senior years, you go full returning from a holiday in Bali mode and line your suitcase with cigarettes and booze. But you see, you can't just dump this stuff into the top of your suitcase because chances are someone's gonna see it. So of course the best spot for hiding contraband has to be the undie pocket. Because in all honesty, what teacher's gonna want to dig around in your undies? Not only is it gross, but it's not exactly a good look. Anyway, now that we've got past the contraband section, it's time to get into the bus ride there. Now the bus ride itself is also quite entertaining. Depending on how far the journey is, the longer that you're in the bus, the more time there is for shenanigans. Now first up we have that one kid who decided to pop into their local Coles or Woolworths on the way to school and got a 5-finger discount on just about everything in the lollies and chocolate aisle. Now during the bus ride, this kid turns the school bus into a rolling diabetes unit. Now usually kids are pretty stingy when it comes to handing out food like this, but due to the fact that he didn't pay for any of it, he just gives them away like he's on the Oprah Winfrey show. And that of course brings us on to our next kid, that one kid who always complains he's gonna vomit but never actually does. There's always that one kid that whinges to the teacher that he's gonna throw up and has to sit there with one of those vomit bags despite never actually using it. And this poor kid has to sit on his own curled up in the corner because this isn't SeaWorld, nobody wants to sit in the splash zone. Now more often than not, at some point the bus driver has to pull over and have a break, which gives the students and teachers a chance to get out and stretch their legs. Now usually they find a park or rest area where they can pull over the bus and let everyone out to run around. And there's always that one kid that goes missing and takes a good hour to find again. But once everyone's rounded up again and back on the bus, there's a few more hours of throwing stuff, arguing, fighting, vandalising the bus and threats from the teachers to call their parents. And then just like that, you've arrived at the school camp destination. Now depending on where your school decides to take you for school camp, you can either have the time of your life or have an absolute stinker. Now usually the best ones are the ones where you get a cabin, you have a bed, shower and toilet. These camps are usually the best because you have somewhere warm and dry to sleep, unlike the other type that we'll get into after this. Now these camps usually have hectic activities that you do during the day, like the massive swing, rock climbing, abseiling, bike riding, canoeing, you name it. And at the end of the day, when all of the activities are done and inevitably one kid falls into a lake, you get to go back to your cabin, have a shower and clean yourself up. Then you all get to go to this massive dining area where you get something hectic for dinner like lasagna. But all that stuff I just mentioned isn't even the best part, because when the sun goes down, the real fun begins. Once darkness falls, these cabins turn into tribes. And while everyone gets along during the day and at dinner time, at night, the war begins. Now I'm sure everyone's got their own fart-assing around at camp stories, but simply due to the fact that every camp experience is different, I'll go through some of mine. One year when I was in high school, my school decided to bring the whole year level, which consisted of 150 to 200 people, on camp all at once. And after being divided into groups of about 6, we had roughly 30 different tribes ready to battle it out as soon as night fell. Now for some reason the teachers wouldn't let us lock our cabins, which means that anyone could go in and do whatever they wanted. And what that meant for us was any time a warring faction would leave their cabin to go play basketball or something, another tribe would send in a few agents to go into that cabin and absolutely destroy everything. Now you could imagine what the crime scenes looked like. Beds flipped over, underwear everywhere. It was not a pretty sight. But in the end, we finally got in so much trouble that we had to stop when someone found out that you could use the fruit from the fruit bowl as projectiles, which resulted in many rooms being covered from the roof to the floor in fruit and other juices, which of course we were made to clean up. But by far the best decision that I made during that school camp was sneaking in a Bluetooth speaker as part of my contraband. Now what you're looking at here is a layout of the cabins. And this one here, right on the very end, was mine. And on the other end was the teacher's. Now all night people had been getting caught running around and door knocking on the other cabins. And anytime this teacher heard it, he could just open this door and catch the perpetrator in the act. So I had to perfectly time a run from the door to this tree around here and back without getting caught, which I of course pulled off with ease, and then proceeded to play stupid noises and loud music all night, keeping everyone awake. Anyway, that's just one of my more tame camp experiences. I'm sure everyone's got their own stories, so make sure to drop them in the comments. Anyway, that's enough about the good camp. Now it's time to get into the stinker. These are the sort of outdoor ed camps where you sleep in a tent or under a tarp and have to shit in a bucket or a hole. Now these ones usually suck because if it rains or it's anything over 25 degrees, you're completely exposed to the elements. And mix that in with no showers for a few days, and swamp ass is going to be the least of your worries. Now I remember in year 9 going on one of these camps, and all they gave us to sleep under was a tarp. Now this would have been alright if we had something to prop the tarp up with, but unfortunately we were in the middle of a field and there was basically all to use to prop up the tarp. So for the first night of this camp, me and 2 others draped the tarp over an electric fence and slept under that. Now from my own memory and personal experience, these outdoor ed torture camps include hiking, rafting, sitting in a hole, and not much else. There's no giant swings, no rock climbing unless that's part of the hike, and at the end of the day you get to sleep on the floor in the same sweaty clothes you just hiked 20 k's in, and then you rinse and repeat for about 3 days. Now I remember when I was on this camp they gave us absolute rations, something straight out of World Vision. And while these rations were supposed to last us 3 days, people would break into the food storage at night when the camp instructor was asleep and absolutely pig out. Anyway, some important aspects of this camp include 1 kid breaking his ankle on the hike and slowing everyone down, 1 or more kids falling off the raft and straight into the river, leeches, and of course surviving off a diet of oats and damper. Now every school camp I'd been on prior to that had been an absolute blast, and this one was nothing short of an absolute stinker. Now obviously the best part of these outdoor ed camps is the bus ride home. Most people try and use the time on this bus to catch up on some sleep while they're sat on a comfortable chair and not sleeping on the ground. But of course there's always a few people that have to do the same thing that they did on the way up and be loud, annoying and obnoxious the whole way home on the bus. Now the bus ride home from either of these school camps is usually exactly the same. In both scenarios everyone's sleep deprived, whether it's from being up all night playing Fruit Ninja in other people's cabins, or being up all night from the amount of rocks underneath your sleeping bag. At this point everyone's pretty much fucked. But then of course when you finally get back to school and get the chance to talk to the 2 kids that weren't allowed to go on camp because of behavioural issues, you'll either get to rub it in their face that you had the time of your life, or think to yourself, what am I doing with my life, when they tell you that they spent the last 5 days at home playing Fortnite. Anyway, with that being said, it's time to end. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, comment and share, and don't forget to check the link in the description for some epic t-shirts if you want to hear more teachings from the Prophet of Yorak Hunt. And if you enjoyed this video so much that you watched it all the way till the end, make sure to comment.
Just got the new Yeezys in the mail. See what they look like. I hope they got it right.
To let me know.